first, a warm and welcoming front door might hold a festive wreath. That's kind of a front porch staple. But now there's a companion piece, sometimes called a porch sitter. It's a structure that props next to your door to fill in and finish off the look. Carly Lewis has worked up some designs that are sure to get reactions from the neighbors. In fact, your neighbors are reacting to your porch sitters at your house.
They are, and the construction workers, they come over, take their breaks, and they're like, what are you doing? What are you making? And I'm like, come check it out.
Well, I love just the name, porch sitter. I love the concept that it accentuates the porch decor you already have going on. But you have really taken this over the top. I mean, this is big.
It's big.
Statement.
Simple, easy, and the cost is like almost nothing.
Look how cute this guy is, and I hope he doesn't fall face forward as the wind kind of gusts up on us right now. Sorry about that. This is a pallet board?
Yes, this is a pallet. So I just found on KSL, yay for me, and found it and free. And so I went and snatched it up.
Hold on, free?
Free.
That's even better.
That's why the cost at this point, I already had the paint, I already had the painter's tape. This was, in a sense, virtually free for me to make.
Those who accept shipments and loads just want to get rid of these. And crafters and DIYers just want to get their hands on them as fast as possible.
Absolutely.
Okay, so did you have to do any pre-treatment for this?
Okay, no. Actually, all I did was I painted it green, and I actually started painting this part green, and I realized, wait, I'm going to paint black over it. Why waste time in paint?
Yeah.
So I went ahead and painted it green. I used painter's tape to get my crisp lines. Now, the reason I use painter's tape is because not everybody has access to a silhouette machine, to a cameo, a cutter, using stencils. So painter's tape to the rescue. Now, the other way to do it would be, of course, again, a stencil, but why spend the extra money? Again, cost is virtually nothing.
Yeah, you say you don't need a stencil for this. You can freehand this. Are we sure about that? Are we sure about that?
For sure.
I'm not as artistic as you are, but the shapes are pretty basic and the designs are pretty freeform.
And I didn't even use a stencil for this. And I technically did not have to use a stencil for his hair. I could have just freehanded that.
But to get that edge.
Yeah, but I wanted the edge, so I thought, why not use painter's tape?
Well, speaking of that edge, this old wood, anyone who's worked with this knows that it's thirsty. It soaks up not just water, but paint.
Yes.
So how do you keep those lines from getting crisp and not bleeding or getting
So there
faded?
was two different ways that I did Frankenstein here. So I put my painter's tape on, and then I actually did Mod Podge on this side, and then I used paint on this side. The reason being is because depend on what your base is going to be would be when you determine if you're using Mod Podge or tape.
So if it's an older wood, if it's going to suck up that color?
Either way, it just depends if I'm doing raw wood or if it's painted. So I have on some other pieces over here.
Yeah.
So I got my reclaimed wood here. It's from Weber Lumber at Home Depot. It's excellent. So you don't have to go searching for your reclaimed wood anymore. You can find it at Home Depot.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's awesome. And so this is your bare wood. So the reason I say you would use Mod Podge over paint is, well, I don't have a base color to hide it.
I gotcha.
So that's where I got my Mod Podge right here.
It's very clever of you to do almost a sealant of sorts.
A sealant. It's going to seal these edges. That way it's not bleeding through. So then I went ahead.
So you do the Mod Podge layer first?
I already did the Mod Podge layer, and then I did that ahead of time so it could just dry a little bit for you. And then I'm just going on, and I'm going to paint it away from the edges, because if I push towards it, it might sneak up underneath and try to bleed through.
And the unfinished grains will just latch on to that.
Yes.
So the Mod Podge has dried. That kind of acts as your barrier, working against, I don't want to say against the grain, but against the stencil, against the shape, will keep that paint in the lines.
And so then when I'm peeling this off, and this, yes, I had a stencil. Now I have my crisp lines.
Look at that, no bleeding. That's cool. Good trick, great trick, actually.
Now, let's say I was going to put this on something that had a color on it already. So for example, I have this. I know, I'm bringing out Christmas, you guys, I'm so sorry. But
you have to think ahead, right? It's all in the sake of planning.
I have to think ahead. Okay, so this, I have a color underneath. So I could use Mod Podge for this, but the other trick would be to use the color that's your base. So if it's gonna bleed through, it's gonna bleed through to your base color already. So then it doesn't matter.
So the white becomes the white.
So the white becomes the white. And then what you get, so I want my color to be red. Now hopefully.
She is going Christmas on us.
I am going Christmas.
Here comes the red.
Well, I thought about doing all pumpkins, and then I just saw this and it was just.
It just spoke to you.
It spoke to me. Okay, so again, I'm only putting a little bit of paint, and that it might even be a little bit too much.
Light hand.
Light hand, I don't want too much. So then again, this is a little harder to stay away from the edges to help it not go through. But again, I could have used Mod Podge or I could have used paint. So let's pretend I already have a second coat on there.
I see a second coat. I don't know about you.
And I still have my crisp lines.
Look at that. And that's a detailed script.
That's a detailed thing. And I'd go back and get my little inserts out.
Sure.
But again, I had no bleed through because the first color, let's say I had just put the red right in, it probably would have snuck underneath your stencil and then you'd have it sneaking out. So that's why I put my color of white first, because if it's going to bleed through, well, this is already white, we're good to go.
And it's not going to show as much on a giant Frankenstein head, but when you get into the details
when you get into the details things, yes.
Do you finish these off or seal them off with anything?
So I would, there's a couple things. This Frankenstein, I did not finish off.
He's so cute.
I figured this is rustic, it's going to be outdoors, you know, I'm okay with that. However, when I'm dealing with something more decor that's going to be inside, I would seal it with a wax or, you know, your favorite poly or whatever the object is.
Okay.
I've already used my favorite chalk paint, BB Froche. I've already mixed it up. That's what I use. I love how I can manipulate it. So, and speaking of manipulate it, that's where we get the pumpkin.
Okay, as if the Frankenstein was not statement enough. I love that guy for the porch or for the yard. Look at this. What did you make this out of?
Okay, tape palette. And now this is kind of, I feel like it's a new trend.
Okay.
Maybe. You know, don't quote me if I'm wrong, but I turn an electrical spool into my
one
pumpkin.
of those giant industrial that you see.
That you see, they have the wire going around them.
Are they eager to get rid of those as well?
Depends. They're a little trickier to get, but they're harder to find for free, but you can usually buy them. So I did purchase this one. I found it off a yard sale Facebook group. KSL has them occasionally.
That basic circle becomes the cutest pumpkin, and that circle shape could be transformed into a myriad of things.
I'm already thinking, again, Christmas, I'm like, oh, I could put a cute little Santa belly or something.
You absolutely could. The stem just kind of pokes out at the back and you're done.
And I decided to do a stem on the back just to add to it. Again, if you don't have tools, you could glue that on. And then it's good to go. I actually did use a drill and I stuck the screw back on, but that's okay.
Look at you.
And then I used the faux stain method for the stem, so that way you have that grain look.
Yeah, and love the shading too.
And then the shading, that's using a dry brush method.
Okay, the same chalk paint with just a dry brush.
Same chalk paint, super easy.
Darling ideas.
Yes, it's simple. That took me 20 minutes. 20 minutes, you have a porch sitter, again, I love that term, or just a yard decoration to celebrate the season. So many of these techniques translate to a class that you're teaching. Yes, absolutely, perfect. Thank you for reminding me. So, next Friday and Saturday is Pinners Conference. If you haven't heard of it, you need to go Google it and go look it up. I think everybody's heard of it, So I'm actually going to be teaching a couple of different stenciling methods. Okay. That way people can understand when do you use Mod Podge or when am I using paint, and vice versa. So we're going to be making this adorable 12-inch clock. There'll be different colors to choose from. At Pinners Class? At Pinners Class, yes. And the best part is, if you go and sign up and you use my code Simply Saturday, you'll get 10% off your tickets. Hello, so remember that code Simply Saturday as you get your Pinners tickets for the upcoming event. And thank you so much for the Porch Sitter inspiration.